Hello everyone, welcome to my build for the current patch. This is the Feed Skill patch. Today we'll be running a very different build. I have been using it a lot on my streams and in my recent videos. The one in my recent videos will be with some changes to the current one, which I will explain. But this build is extremely effective for taking on a 1vx situation. It's very powerful in a duel as well. You may have some problems with a few builds, but for the most part, I think this build is very effective even in a duel. I think it is an all-round brilliant build, so if you do want to adjust any skills, etc., obviously you can do that. I'm always one to suggest people to adjust the build in their own way, but I will run through the sets right now. So, firstly, onto our set. We are using 3-piece willpower. This should go without saying. This has a 1.8x enchantment on the spell damage and max Magicka, so it's something you should automatically use on the jewelry in a Magicka build, in my opinion. Then we're running a 2-piece PvE set. This could be anything. Malibeth, Scoria, Bloodspawn, or Dwemer would be my top 2. You could also run 1 Kenna and 1 Bloodspawn, or vice versa. That would also be a good combination. And then we're running 5-piece Winterborn set. Now this is from Maelstrom Arena. The 5-piece bonus, 8% chance when you deal frost damage to summon an ice pillar for 2 seconds. It deals 8,500 core damage and snares them by 60% once it's active. This is OP if they are getting those pillars. And when we come onto the skills, I'll explain how we're getting so many pillars. It hits like a truck. If you're fighting a sword with shield stacking is no longer a problem, because these people are just going to be able to shield stack. They're not going to get a chance to attack. Finally, we have a 1-piece left, which you will notice on the weapon. So we're using the Maelstrom Staff. We will be using the Maelstrom Ice Staff. This took me so long to get, I cannot put it into words how frustrating this is to get. So I will, in a sec, explain what you can do if you can't get it. But targets affected by Wall of Elements take 1,300 additional damage from light and heavy attacks, and while equipped, we're granting 189 extra damage. So this is pretty OP. We're using a Maelstrom Rescue Staff on the other one. We're not using Regeneration, which is the main part of this. It does give us some spell crit, but it's better than having nothing at all on that bar in the end. Okay, so if you don't have the Maelstrom Arena done, there is a way to swap this build up. Instead of the Ice Staff, you could run a Fire Staff at this point. It's up to you, but we're gonna imagine it's still the Ice Staff, and you don't have Winterborn because that's from Maelstrom Arena. You don't have Maelstrom Staff, so you don't have that. Okay, so instead we're gonna run 5 Kagrenak on these pieces. One of these is gonna be Kenna, Mola Kenna for the spell damage, and then the other ones are gonna be 2-piece Torai pack with the weapon and one of the hat or shoulders. Okay, so we're going to move on to the actual skills themselves. We'll start on the Destruction Staff part. So we're running Crippling Grasp. This is our main dot for single target. Even in a 1vx situation, this is very nice. It can increase our movement speed, of course. It will immobilize one enemy, but the main thing is that we can still put extra pressure on one of our main targets. So even though we're mostly going to be AoEing in this build, it is a nice way to pressure someone who has a problem, such as a healer, or someone's putting in a lot of punishment on you, so high damage build, etc. We can make them work so they can't put that pressure on us. So the whole way this build works is we're putting the pressure on them to stop them putting it on us. So that's our spammable DPS. The tooltip's a little low right now. Obviously it's all unbuffed, so it will be lower than average. And then we're running Refreshing Path. Now this is a skill that not many people know about. This is on the Shadow Tree. It's a morph of Path of Darkness. One will do extra damage, it's much larger, but personally I like this morph. It fits very well with our last skill on this bar. But it is also giving us a great heal. It's about the same as Rapid Regen. I think it's very underestimated, this skill, and I think it's definitely worth running in terms of an AoE build. Sap Essence, that's our spammable AoE DPS. It's also our major sorcery buff. Blockade of Frost, so this is a skill very few people use and don't realize how strong it is. 2,000 cold damage every second for 8 seconds, unbuffed. If we can hold them in that path, that's 16k damage total. That is a lot of damage for one cast. Even Crippling Grasp, which is single target, not AoE, is only a slightly bit more than that. When we're buffing this will be about 2.4k per second, so it's major damage. Finally, the ultimate, we do run Soul Harvest. This is less so for using as an ultimate in terms of execute. We can use that, of course, it is a lot of damage. If we can't build up for our other ultimate, we can go for it. It does inflict Major Defile again, which does tie in with some situations, but mainly it's there because we're gaining 10 ultimate when we get a kill. And we're going to be getting a lot of kills on this bar in a 1vx situation because of all this AoE damage. And it's where our DPS is, which will give us great chances to swap into our ultimate on our other bar, Soul Tether. Whilst everyone is in those paths, we're going to drop Soul Tether. We're going to do a huge amount of damage, and we're going to CC them. They're not only going to be taking that massive damage, but because of the CC, they're going to be taking extra damage. You do take extra damage whilst you're knocked down, etc. So damage is going to be real. I will be releasing a video later on in the week, hopefully. Depends how many clips I can get using this Ice Staff build rather than the Fire Staff that you may have seen in previous videos. But this is very, very strong. The rest is Staff Bar then. So we're running Siphoning Attacks. Now, in a second I'll show my stats. They're a little low in terms of regen. This will help manage our regen. Merciless Resolve, this does a huge amount of damage. When we buff this Spectral Bow, is about 20k damage. So it offers us Might of Berserk, which increases our damage down by 8%. That's already a nice benefit. But when we do hit an enemy with 4 heavy attacks or light attacks, we then get that Spectral Bow synergy, and when we use that, we're getting a huge damage. And that's how we're going to focus on single targets. We're going to keep crippling, we're going to keep our paths down. If possible, we're going to keep them in the paths. We're going to pop crippling on them. We're going to use our funnel as a spammable DPS. When we're in trouble, or when they're going to go down, we're going to pop Merciless, we're going to pop our ulti, and most things will get one shot. Pretty much only a tank can survive that combo. So we have huge AoE DPS, and yet we can still one shot a single target. Heal World, that goes without saying, that's our major heal. Shadow Image, that is for kiting around. Many of you would have already heard about this skill. It is a small dot, doesn't flip minor main, so it will reduce their damage, but it's just great fun to use. In a 1v8 situation, it's very nice for kiting around, and we're using Fear. This is obviously a CC. Can be used single target, but it can also be used in a 1v8 situation, because we do need to split them up. If we have a Zerg on us, which happens more often than not, in all honesty, pop Fear, that's 3 of them going to be running away, so that's very effective there. You will notice we are not running Dark Cloak, and we are not running Proximity Detonation, so this is why this build is so different. Obviously, there's a number of other skills. I'm not running Conceal Weapon, etc., etc. Dark Cloak does not fit this build. In my opinion, Dark Cloak is a bullshit skill. It is for hide and seek. I just don't rate people who use this. I think it is very hard to seek. You're not really getting involved in the fight. It pisses me off, to be honest. But anyway, Dark Cloak is bugged this patch, so if you are just mad because it's not working rather than how stupid this skill is, it should have a cooldown like Streak, and I've played Nightblade since beta. I think this skill is the most bullshit ever. But yeah, if you are struggling with Cloak, because it does bug 24/7, pretty much every single dot bugs out, play this build in a way that works for you. Right, we're going to move on to our stats. So, this is without a number of buffs. Currently on the DC campaign, if I quickly show you, we have jack shit. DC sucks, basically. Like, we really, really suck. So we don't have any buffs. It's completely unbuffed. We have 34.4k Magicka. Some of you are going to be thinking, holy shit, that's so low. What are you doing, Tom? How are you ever going to kill anything with that? Our damage is still huge. I proved that just now. We're going to be pumping out a lot of damage. And that's because of all the dots. Max health, that's currently 27k. That can vary anywhere up to about 30k, depending on some buffs, especially Emperorship, of course. It could get even higher. 30k, I really believe that 26k is the sweet spot to avoid many of these one-shot builds. There's obviously loads and loads of dickheads using this proxy and detonation and all of that, with tether, vicious death, etc. It gets boring to fight, so don't let them one-shot you. Run a decent health pool, please. Because I'm always getting killed when someone dies next to me with this rubbish. We have 18.6k stamina. That can go up to 20k with some buffs. That's OP. So you're looking at that and going, why put it into stamina? Why not Magicka? We're running triglyphs. I will always run this on my armor. In my opinion, you should use as much resource pool as you can, even though it's going to lower our damage slightly. It does mean we can roll dodge more. It does mean we can manage our stamina in terms of CCs, etc. Especially with this poor recovery, it gives us a better chance for siphoning attacks. But when we're outnumbered, that roll dodge can be very valuable, and we will have a great chance with that. Spell damage. Now, this is on the resto bar. It is a lot lower, so we're not getting that increase. It still does okay. When we're buffed, it's still going to be about 2.3k, which actually isn't as bad as it sounds. We're going to have like an 8k to a typical spell with DPS, but our other bar is getting that increase. When this is buffed, it's about 2.4, 2.5k, maybe even 2.6k with all the buffs. But you've got to remember, we're also getting an 8% damage increase from Merciless Resolve. That won't show on the spell damage, that is base damage. So we can stack up a lot of damage, and like I've said, we can still one-hit anything to this spell, which is absolutely fine. Recovery, stamina recovery is enough to CC break just about. You do want to keep your siphoning attacks up when you get low. That'll help you build that back up. But magic recovery is only 1.4k. Now that's pretty low. So you really do have to manage your siphoning attacks on that. Funnel health is very cheap to cast. So when you are getting on resource, if you do spam funnel health with your siphoning attacks up, that should do you good. Yeah, for the most part, it's going to sort you out. And the boon is the Astronaut. We do need that recovery. We could use Apprentice, but then our magical recovery is just going to suck dick. We don't want to do that, so we need the Astronaut there. If we quickly move on to our food, we will be using the Tri-Food. In my opinion, pretty much any magic build should run Tri-Food. You will also see some people using gold, but I think as a magic build you should be able to maintain your stuff better than stamina. I mean, you could run food on stamina as well, but I think the sustain from stamina is slightly harder since many of the skills are much more expensive than Magicka. But yeah, I would always go Tri-Food on this for the extra damage and extra resource pools. And then our potions, our essence of health for the Tri-Stat. And of course we have the detection in case anyone's hiding and we can't find them, but for the most part we can find them with our AoE. So if I quickly show you that, we imagine placing this path here, this path here, well that's pretty much a whole resource covered in shit. So we're going to find them now. I did forget to mention my enchants on my jewellery. I have one reduced cost, that does help with the sustain and then 2 spell damage. You could swap that out for spell damage if you really want to. I think you're going to run out of resources in a 1vx situation. Dueling you should be fine. So if you are mostly a jeweler, go for it. But yeah, I wouldn't rush into that straight away. Lastly, we're going to move on to champion points. Now, in my previous video with the stamina build, one-handed shield stamina build for patch where Shield Breaker came out, the Imperial City patch, I would have to say that I did explain carefully what you should do. So you'd always put 1, 2, 6, 13, or 22 points into trees you like. At that point, pump up the ones that are major. So, my major trees, you will notice some 1s, 2s, 6s, 13s, 22s all over the place in these numbers. There's a 1. That's just because the less points in a tree, the more you get per point, if you understand what I'm saying. If not, I can try to explain it another time. You can join in the stream, so I will explain there. You will see them all over the place, but I'm just going to explain my major trees. We'll save some time. So running 80 Magician to reduce the cost. We're just going to pump that down, because some of these chosen skills, both the pass, fear, are quite expensive, so we do get a lot of gain from that. And then 15 recovery, do have some stamina recovery there, do have some roll dodge just to help manage that stuff. You have 13 in Blessed, this will increase your healing a bit, so it's running a lot of things like Sap, Twisted Path, Final Health, etc. It is worth to put some points here. It will also increase your base heal from your ward, but obviously not the shield. 100 into Elemental Expert, let's just increase our magic damage. We do need that, we have slightly low spell damage, so it does help. 54 into Firmtouch, that's for the dots, we do have a lot of dots, pump some in there. With 13 in Resistance, that's for crits, 13 in Thick Skin, that's for dot reduction, but most of our points in the red tree are in Hardy and Elemental Defend to reduce magic and physical damage. Poison, Disease, Flame, Frost, Shock, etc. They just come in the full package, but Magic and Frost, Physical are main focus. And then we have 2, 2, and 6 in here. You'll see those numbers all over the place whenever I'm making a build. I would just always go there. I think that's it. I've probably cocked something up. Just remember, if you don't have these sets, if you can't do Maelstrom Arena, it is hard. Swap it out a bit. So go 1 Kenner, 2 Torag's Pact, 5 Kagrenac, 3 Willpower, and it should do good. I'm not going to lie, it's not an easy build to play. It will take a lot of practice to get a hang of. In my opinion, everyone, when you are making a build, you should customize it to yourself. And the best way to do that is put the skills you like on, put some sets that fit the skills, and then pump up the damage nice and high, and slowly work the damage into recovery until you have the sustain of that damage. Everyone can make their own build. It does really improve your game style to do that. When you know your own build, it really, really improves that. But if you do want to use this, feel free. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again.